Just real quick before we get into the video, I'd like to point something out. Only about 30 some percent of you are actually subscribed. And, just want to ask you if you could subscribe, please. I know this is awkward, but apparently asking helps. So, without any more delay, here we go.
Hello, and welcome back to another Marcus Talks video game review. And today we will be talking about the new Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games for the Nintendo Switch. That somehow everyone thought was the logical next step for Pokemon being open world, which is the logical next step for every video game franchise now for some reason, and I guess I just have to live with it. But let's just get with the story. Let's start with the story. That should be fun, right? Now, the story of this game is very interesting. It's based on you getting sent to a boarding school, and as a homeschooled man myself, this sounds like an absolute nightmare. And every year, the school holds an independent studies program called the Treasure Hunt, and finding your own treasure along the way as you travel across the vast Paldea region with the legendary Pokemon Koraidon, or Miraidon, depending on which game you picked. I chose Scarlet, so I got Koraidon. And the game is split between three paths. And now, just a quick spoiler warning for the entire story, so skip to the timestamp on screen to avoid that. The first path follows the typical Pokemon game, where in which you battle your rival Nemona, who is very upbeat and very much into Pokemon battles. She also convinces you to take on the Pokemon League, just like she did the year before. In the league, you battle 8 gyms to collect their badges, to take on the champion of the region, while your rival battles you between certain gyms. This path has the least amount of story of the three paths, I'd say. The way it is handled in this game is also interesting, as you can battle any gym at any time. I'll talk more about this later, about how it affects gameplay. The champion of this region is complete, and pardon my French, crap. She is easily one of the worst champions ever. She is the chairwoman of the Pokemon League, and therefore decides the rules. Conflict of interest here. She has made it so when you beat her, you only gain the title of champion, and she gets to remain the champion forever. Now this is just a minor point out of the story. It has nothing to do with the story really, and it's just like a nitpick that I have. But that's like a major conflict of interest there. Enough about the champion. Now on to the better end of things, your rival. She is also one of the easiest rivals ever, but at least she's fun. Uh, she's also one of the easiest, even when she supposedly fights you without holding back. The story for the gym challenges really doesn't reveal much about most of the characters involved, including your rival, with only about 3 gym leaders getting any interesting moments where you actually interact with them. And only 2 of those are fun, being Kofu, the water type gym leader, and Larry, the normal type gym leader. And normally in a Pokemon game, you learn about your rival over time, but I feel like this game really dropped the ball on this and saves most of the story for your rival for the tail end of the game and optional events in the post game. The second path follows an equivalent of fighting the Totem Pokemon or Noble Pokemon in Pokemon Sun and Moon and Legends Arceus, respectively. Throughout this path, you follow Arven, who is a talented chef but doesn't show up for class much. He is looking for the fabled Herba Mystica found in the Scarlet or Violet book he got from his mother or father, depending on which game you picked. To find the Herba Mystica, you must fight Titan Pokemon, who are regular Pokemon that have added the herbs to their diet, causing them to grow both in size and strength. Over time, you learn Arvin is looking for the herbs for their mystical healing powers to help his sick Pokemon Mabostiff, who basically acted as a surrogate parent for his entire life, since Professor Sada or Toro were famous scientists that explored and have been in the off-limits Area Zero for years now, which is where the herbs came from. As you collect more herbs, your partner, Kuridon or Miraidon, eat the sandwiches that Arvin makes to regain their original powers to help you explore the world more freely. This path ends with you being contacted by the professor, telling you and Arvin to come to Area Zero with the newly restored legendary Pokemon. To continue, you must complete the other two story paths first. And the third path is essentially an excuse to show off the new Let's Go battle mechanic, and features the school bullies Team Star. You find cornering someone on your first day of school trying to peer pressure her into joining. The student is Penny, and she'll be a recurring character through this story. On the first day of the treasure hunt, your phone is hacked into by this mysterious Cassiopeia, I'm going to say Cassiopeia, who asks you to help them bring down the 5 leaders of Team Star and take the big boss behind the whole operation down. But not before the director of the school overhears you on the phone. As you go across the region to fight the Team Star bases, you'll be met by a fellow student of the school named Clive. It is definitely not just Director Clavel in disguise. He wants to help you take down Team Star and learn about why Team Star even exists. As you take down each leader, you get a flashback to when Team Star was first formed, and a bit of the personality of each leader, and over time you learn that Team Star were the ones being bullied and were only trying to stop the bullies at the school. And there is no record of these events because the previous director of the school and the rest of the faculty kept it a secret and all quit at the same time. Quite the job turnover at this academy. And for every base you defeat, Cassiopeia sends you some Bitcoin and sends Penny to reward you. Once you defeat the 5th base, Cassiopeia tells you that they are in fact the big boss of Team Star, and planned this operation knowing that the bosses would not take orders to disband directly. You are then asked to meet at the school to battle, where you are then met with Clive, who reveals that he is in fact Director Clavel. Wow! Who could have seen this coming? Not me, that's for sure. He also tells you that he is Cassiopeia and battles you, except he isn't Cassiopeia, and is only testing you because he felt you shouldn't be involved in this until you prove yourself to be able to stop the boss. Once you go to the schoolyard, you find out that Penny is the big boss behind Team Star, in battle just because. The rest of the members of Team Star finally meet Penny for the first time, and are all let off the hook very easily. They also get to join the Pokemon League with their unorthodox battle styles as special gyms. And we've come to the final converged path, where all 3 paths combine to continue path number 2 with Arvin. Now with Penny and Nimona joining you to help break into Area Zero to meet the professor. Down in here, you find out that Area Zero is a lush environment filled with strong Pokemon, and a Pokemon that looks very familiar. As you journey through Area Zero, you get a lore dump from Arvin, a small bit of backstory from Nimona, and nothing but shy snark from Penny. Once you make your way down to the bottom of Area Zero, you find the crystals that allow Pokemon to terrestrialize. Oh yeah, terrestrialization. I forgot that was a thing because we'll talk about it more under gameplay. But long story short, terrestrialization allows you to either boost the power of a Pokemon or change its type. Example, you can change a Pikachu into a flying type instead of electric type. And let's see, the professor discovered how to harness this power 10 years ago. Okay, now you are caught up on terrestrialization. As you travel further down, you find a damaged research station. This will be important. Before you find the research station with the professor, when you open the station, a second Miraidon attacks and runs into the station before you, all while you get overrun with ancient-looking Pokemon. Once you make your way into the station, you find a robot modeled to look like the professor that has all the memories of the professor, and then it explains to you that the professor died years ago, protecting the original legendary, the one that's your partner for the entire game, from the more aggressive one, and now the robot has been continuing the research alone all this time. The AI professor is able to see the error in the original human professor's research, which involves a time machine that is bringing Paradox Pokemon to this point in time, either being from the past or future depending on your game. After a couple battles with the overridden AI, the AI professor must sacrifice itself to stop the time machine for good. Everyone but Arvin gets to be happy, and we end with an Ed Sheeran song. Oh my goodness, I wrote so much for the story, and the timestamp to skip the spoilers must be huge. And now we finally move on to gameplay. So for the first time, Pokemon has gone open world. It has potential, but also I have a few issues with this. One, every other game is going open world and resource gathering, crafting for seemingly no reason, and now every game is just copying Minecraft. And number two, the game does not scale the challenge to match how many things you've completed. So for example, the first gym is the bug gym, but the second gym is the grass gym on the opposite side of the map. And the closest gym to the bug gym is either the psychic gym or the water gym. And the psychic gym, which is like the fifth gym based on difficulty, no problems there. This also pops up again with the ghost gym and the ice gym. It's easier to get to the ice gym, which is supposed to be the very last one you go to, than it is to get to the ghost gym, which is about the sixth gym. If you make an open world game, you need it to scale properly to match the player's relative strength, or supply them with more direction than just go wherever you want. The only time the game tells you where to go is directing you to go to the bug gym, and it never directs you your next location ever again. Well, it also tells you to do the Stone Titan first, but that's exactly at the same time as it tells you to go do the bug gym first. So, kind of missed the point there. So now I've stated my issues with this. Let's talk about something else. The gyms are weird, and only one of them is a normal gym, which happens to be the normal gym, run by Larry. Larry is the best gym leader. Almost every gym leader's ace is a Pokemon that does not match the gym typing to showcase the new Terra Steel gimmick. One of the most competitively interesting and casually boring gimmicks ever. All I can really say is it's better than Dynamax from Sword and Shield, and I almost never used Terra Steel in my playthrough, so I really don't have that much to say about it. The Titan battles are pretty easy and uninteresting, but this path, it's mostly about story. The Team Star bases were made to showcase the new Let's Go battles, which is basically just sending your Pokemon out to battle automatically so you don't have to control them at all. These are fine and good for collecting the Pokemon resources for crafting TMs. TMs break again, which is a stupid change, only to extend the length of the game and nothing else. But to battle Team Star, you must use Let's Go battles to defeat 30 Team Star Pokemon before battling the boss, who all somehow have the same Pokemon, but its type changes magically for no reason. It's not Terra Steel, it's not anything, it's just this Pokemon's type is only dependent on the boss's chosen typing somehow. Exploring the world is interesting at times, but the biggest issue right now are it can be a bit too open at times, and this has caused all the towns to not be fleshed out at all. The first town you go to is 4 buildings that are for display only. The second place you go to is Mesa Goes a City, that is big only for the sake of being big. The only buildings in this city you can go in, and that's a very, very strict go in, are stores, which most stores now just take you to a generic menu instead of a store interior. And, and for some reason, you can find several of these shops, such as a coffee shop and seafood restaurant in the city, lined up next to each other. There are three of the same seafood restaurant copy pasted all lined up next to each other for no reason other than to fill space. They didn't put effort into making good cities because they must have anticipated players spending most of their time in the overworld. My biggest gripe with this is Pokemon X and Y, very first 3D games, had a big city and pretty much every building was explorable, had stuff to do in them. That's my biggest gripe with that. Which, back to the overworld, you explore the overworld with the legendary Pokemon, which is a bike replacement essentially. And over time, you can traverse more easily as the legendary gains new abilities, flying, swimming, climbing, etc. Despite what it may sound like, I rather enjoyed myself playing this game. I just have to point out that this game released in an unfinished state. It's not missing content unfinished, although some could argue that. This game is unoptimized and very buggy unfinished. This game runs very poorly on year one models of the Switch, and my game crashed a total of 3 times across my playthrough, and froze once. Not so much froze, more like a soft lock, but still I had to reset the game. They should have delayed this game and actually put time into bug fixes and patches, instead of the new industry standard for all gaming of releasing an unfinished game and fixing it later. I know after being patched to run better, this game will be great, but that doesn't excuse them for releasing the game in this current state. I can't believe I forgot to mention this before reading this portion of the review. Uh, yeah, I kind of missed this, but the new Terra raids, they kind of stink, I think? Let me explain. So they use the same setup as the max raid battles from the previous game, where you have 4 players fighting a super Pokemon boss, but they made them very loosely in strong air quotes, real time. Pokemon does not work in this format. The amount of time wasted because you need to have what the other players did to update on your end. The raid boss also just constantly interrupts you when you try to attack because they simultaneously use the turn system and don't at the same time, and it all just kind of ruined it. In the max raids, they took a while because you needed to wait for all the other players to move, but at least if they waited too long, they moved automatically. Here, your partners can just not move at all, both wasting time on the new timer that they added and not contributing at all. Also, this new timer doesn't stop for the raid boss when it moves 10 times in a row. And once again, all the other players' actions take so long to update on your end because this is not set up in the traditional turn system. These could have been cool, but they ended up being more of a slog to go through than the old raids. Oh, also, I waited so long to start recording this that they have released a patch for the game. The bugs in the raids, like forcing you to wait for moves to play out even after you lost, still exist, as does the possibility for the raid to just soft lock you, requiring you to reset your game and lose the progress you made by winning the raid. So yeah, the raids were not fixed by the second patch of this game. Let's go on to something actually positive. Music. The music, as always for any Pokemon game, is great. I don't think it's as strong as overall previous games, but it is still a very strong soundtrack overall. Many of the areas of this game have about 2 to 3 versions of its theme, one for just walking, one for battling, and one for riding the legendary. I believe they handled this very well, and most of the overall themes are great, but the Area 1 theme does get pretty boring since it's the one you'll hear the most, I feel, and it's just a redone version of the main theme. I was worried this game was going down the path of Sword and Shield, where most themes would just be a redone version of the main theme. But they actually kept most of the songs and tracks in this game sounding pretty original. But also, it has this inverse effect where I actually remember more of the Sword and Shield themes than the ones in this game for some reason. It could just be that it was the same theme repeated over and over again, but they seem to have better staying power with me. This will probably change in the coming years, though. I'm not sure. The cities all have great themes, but sadly, since the cities aren't fleshed out, you don't really get to hear the music that much during a playthrough because you have really no reason to spend a ton of time in each city. The dedicated battle themes are about on par with what came before, but also just don't feel as great as the older ones. And now we're going to look at the last few games, starting with the rival battle. So X and Y, we had the Friends theme, not the TV show. Great rival fight theme. Sun and Moon, we had Hao's theme. It was great, bouncy, and reflects his character. Sword and Shield, we had 3 rival battle themes, and only about 2 of those were amazing. Hop's theme was practically if they took Hao and added Brock to it. And Beat's theme was if they took a Sonic the Hedgehog boss fight and made it better. Now, Scarlet and Violet has Nemona. Her theme is great, but just doesn't stick with me as much. It feels like a Mario Kart theme and sounds amazing. I actually love this theme a lot, and I have listened to it a ton, and even after playing the game, just in my free time. It just isn't my favorite, especially compared to what came before. The same goes for the old route themes compared to the new overworld province themes, and the old town themes compared to the new town themes. And also, for some odd reason, Ed Sheeran did the credits music. It's a fine pop song, but it doesn't feel like it has any relation to the game or its story. Once again, I am repeating myself and saying the music overall was very strong. The songs are good, but they could be better. Alright, graphics. This is a mixed bag. The graphics have had a major overhaul compared to previous games. They tried to make the Pokemon have more realistic textures instead of just being a solid color. So Pikachu now has like a fur texture on its body instead of just being a solid yellow color. And Pokemon such as Magnemite have reflective metal instead of being like a weird matte silver color. It certainly looks better on some Pokemon than others. If we look at a Pokemon like Grimer, though, it lost some of its cartoony appeal with its hard lines to display how goopy it is. Now it has a very uncomfortable looking smooth texture. The world itself isn't designed particularly well and has many rough patches. While playing, I'd even see the ground shifting around to match where it's supposed to be numerous times. Another thing that delaying the game could have fixed, I'm sure. I'm guessing the quality assurance over at Game Freak is run by Creed Bratton. Okay, so coming up to overall thoughts and just some random miscellaneous things I throw in. My overall thoughts on this game are it's a great game that needed more time in the oven and has had its reputation tarnished by a crappy release. And from a gameplay perspective, it's almost a 1 step forward, 5 steps back kind of situation, I think. Simple stuff like navigating through the box system to look at your collection of Pokemon needed more time because it is, every time I use it, I just keep thinking about how clunky and hard to navigate it is. We have 2 other games on the system that handled the boxes so much better. They could have just copied how the boxes work from Sword and Shield or Legends Arceus, or even the application Pokemon Home. Navigating through your menu of items is also clunky. The lines of items can get really big, but there is no easy way to scroll through them quickly, requiring you to scroll through each item for no reason. It's simple stuff like that that really just ruins it. So yeah, once again, I waited too long, and they've released a new patch to fix some bugs. The only ones I've noticed are minor performance issues, so less lag, and a problem where if a Pokemon was asleep during battle, their eyes would still be open and blinking. Also, there was an issue with certain songs playing improperly, but I can't check to see this because they're for parts of the game you can't go back and replay. So great. Okay, so score. The original version of the script says, so I will give this game 2 scores for a few reasons. Actually, edit that. It's 3 scores now for a few reasons. But I will start with the actual score where I view the game we got. And a second score will be for the game people get about a year from now, with patches and updates, hypothetically. So to start, even though this game is pretty fun and enjoyable overall, it is overrun with performance issues and bugs that shouldn't have been in a game for the highest grossing media franchise of all time. So with that, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet gets a 4 out of 10. Now, alternate reality time. Let's use a pretend time machine to look at the game about a year from now. All right, we're in November 2023. This is a really fun game with a couple stumbles in its jump to a new gameplay style, with a better example of open world Pokemon with Pokemon Legends Arceus. But overall, this is a really fun game, and it gets a 7 out of 10. Wow, this game lost like 3 hypothetical points because of greed from a massive company and unrealistic deadlines. Now jumping back, time machine. Alright, we're now in about December 2022. And with the first patch that barely fixed anything, they get a 4.2 out of 10. That's right, fixing the sleep animation got them a whole 0.2 points. Thanks for watching. This has been Marcus Talks, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this game and your thoughts on what I had to say about it in the comments below. Thank you, and good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of day it is, good that.